Hi, welcome to Shared Frequencies and the Space Between, where heart meets brain and life happens in the messy middle.
We're two best friends navigating a new chapter, sharing a space, finding our rhythm and tuning into life's transitions.
This is a space for deep and meaningful conversations about growth, connection, and everything in between. Let's tune in to today's frequency.
Hello and welcome back to Shared Frequencies and the Space Between. We're recording this one almost straight off the back of the previous episode. We recorded that one in our last night. It will be your last week. And we have, we've just kind of sat down to this and we're kind of coming quickly off the title. So
Episode 10, first of all, double digits. Let's just give some credit to that.
Absolutely, we made it to episode 10.
We'll see if we make it to episode 11.
Yeah, so this is episode 10 and we're going to go with a break in the frequency.
I like it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think that's,
I like it.
a blip in the frequency.
A blip? Oh,
a blip in the frequency.
I think it should be a blip in the
A
frequency.
blip in the frequency. So,
Yes. This is how raw and unprepared and like...
yes.
This is as raw as it gets,
Yeah.
which is interesting because the last episode they listened to was me being very raw. Like,
Yes.
I have totally disassociated from that episode. I have no idea what I've said. It was
Yeah.
all snot and tears.
Yeah,
So
it was.
that was as raw as I get, but this is as raw as we get.
Well, this is the raw conversation. This because
Yeah.
we've not talked about this yet.
No,
You know,
I have given you a heads up.
we know what the topic is as in, well, you know, and you've let me know what the topic is.
Yeah.
So shall we just start with a bit of background to the day?
Yes. Yeah.
So it started like any other day.
It was a sunny and breezy morning in Scotland.
Yeah.
Let's do that.
Yeah,
So, as I just said, we recorded the mental health check-in
Yes.
with me last night, and I have been feeling very out of sorts the last couple of weeks, as I'm assuming very apparent of that recording. As I also just said, I have totally disassociated from it. Like, I generally have no idea what I talked about or how it came across. But it was important for me to just like, I don't know, it feels like I trauma dumped a little. But I'll find out when I listen back to the episode.
Sometimes we need to.
Yeah, no, exactly. And I have not been feeling great today. I've had a really bad mental health day. And I think because, again, like so many different factors, but I was feeling very raw after the episode was recorded yesterday. Everything was just under the surface because I had, poked every little bruise.
Yeah. And just off the back of that, I noticed. I mean, obviously, I'm sitting in front of you. I can see what you are, and then
the napkins come out early.
Yeah, and then my instinct when I'm with you and I know that you're in that state is to want to give you a hug.
Yeah.
And you didn't want a hug.
No, I said that immediately after we finished recording. I was like, I don't want a hug.
Yeah, so.
And you did the smallest little movement, like literally the smallest. Did you adjust
I was just going to pause to stop the recording.
No, the recording was already done.
Or
I think
save
you were,
it.
yeah, I think
Save
you
it.
were saving it,
Yeah.
and I was like, I don't want a hug.
Yeah.
Super defensive. So yeah, I was not in a very good place.
Yeah.
But I got up. I was moving my body. I took the beastie for a walk, and I came back, and I was doing okay. And then I logged on, and there was a couple of things again that just set me off.
Yeah.
And I just was like a hair's breadth away from crumbling.
And I said,
and you were like, you need to take a step back.
Yeah.
You need to take a step back today. You need to just like stop.
Yeah.
Because pushing through is not
no.
the way. So I did. I got my stuff sort of prepped for work. There was some things that needed sorted. So I did that. And I had a conversation with my manager, and I was like, I'm all over the place today.
Yeah.
I'm not in a good place. I'm going to have to stay back and take a sick day today. And she was very supportive of that. So I was trying the first thing that I do when I'm in a bad mental state is cooking.
Yeah.
So I made crepes.
Mm-hmm.
And then I tried to make fudge, which we have just realized 10 hours later is still very good.
Yeah.
It's a fudge spread, but it was my first time, and I didn't use full fat coconut milk, so I don't think there was enough fat in it. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know what went wrong, but it's in the freezer now, and we'll see if we get, what did you call it? Fudge brittle.
Fudge brittle.
Fudge brittle. Yeah. So we'll see. We'll see what happens with that. And then I tried to make muhamra, which is a roasted red pepper or capsicum, depending on what you call it, and walnut spread, a bit like
a dip.
A dip, a bit like a I can't even call it hummus. Yeah, but better.
Oh, way better.
So much better.
Way better.
And then I had a small mental breakdown there because I not made it before, you'd made it before, and you had obviously learned some tips and tricks, but you didn't tell me in advance. So as I was standing there really struggling with it, and I'm like, what have I done wrong? What have I done wrong? And you go, oh yeah, so like the problem was that the breadcrumbs was in the bottom. And I'm like, yeah, that's exactly what I did too.
Yeah.
You didn't tell me. And I was like, oh, that's so annoying. And I was just like, stop fighting it today.
Yeah.
Stop fighting it today. Go to bed. So I went to bed, and I was literally cocooned with the blanket over my head and my headphones on, and I was listening to nature sounds for an hour and a half, just like dozing in and out.
Yeah.
Playing on my phone, crashing, playing on my phone, crashing.
Yeah.
And then I got up around 2:00 and was just playing on my phone, and then I picked up my computer and I watched an episode of Germany's Next Top Model, and I had my entire afternoon sort of planned.
Yeah.
We're going to cinema tonight, which I'm
We are.
very excited about, but it's a late viewing for an early bird like me. So that was also part of why I was napping.
Yeah.
And as we talked about yesterday, I've not been able, we talked about it yesterday.
Yeah.
It was last week's episode. I've not been able to move my body, and that exercise and getting that hit space, if I can't run, I'd want to go for a long walk, is really important to me. Yeah. So like the food and the movement is so important for me. And then, of course, being able to be alone and take a step back. And that's exactly where the blip in the frequency was.
So before we move on to the blip, I'll just give my, like, how the day kind of panned out. So I got up this morning, you know, I had my coffee. You had already started work. I knew that I had sensed from the conversation that we were kind of having back and forth the sort of things that were tripping you up. Not tripping you up so much, but
that's exactly how I felt. That's exactly
the things
how
that were tripping you up were things that don't normally trip you up.
Yeah.
And it very quickly became apparent to me that you were like, you hadn't improved since last night.
No.
You know, a good night's sleep hadn't been the fix.
Yeah.
Not that it is necessarily in and of itself a fix. So, and I said to you, you need to take a day. You know, so I recognised that you needed to take a day, and you did, and you've covered that. And then, and it's interesting that I wasn't sure whether you were going to go straight to, I'm just going to curl up in bed, or what you were going to do with that. And then you went into full flight cooking mode. And from my
but you also asked,
perspective.
Yeah, you asked, you're like, with the crepes, you're like, is there anything I can help with?
Yes.
And I'm like, no, I just need to be in my own little
So
thing.
I was giving you your space in the kitchen. I was not staying out of the way. I don't ever feel like I need to stay out of the way, but I know when I need to give you your space. You know, I know when you need your space.
Yeah.
Not that I need to give your space. I know when you need your space. So yeah, so you made the crepes delicious. The one wrapped in banana with the chocolate spread, and you know,
because of this stupid fucking kitchen,
yeah.
my stupid Nutella is so hard. I had to heat the Nutella on the small frying pan in order to be able to even spread it.
Ah, that's why you use the small frying pan. So yeah, so I
was also like, this stupid kitchen, I hate you.
So I just went into, right, I need to find something to do just that's productive and just lets you do what you need to do. So I started editing, not editing because there's not much editing. I started putting together, bolting on that funky little bit of music you get at the start and the funky little bit of music you get at the end.
And then
there's a surprise little bit in the middle.
the midway surprise.
When we had to take a break to allow Raven to have her food. So I was doing that and making sure it was all suitable for uploading and things like that. So I just kind of got into that space. And, you know, you made the crepes and then you went on to
Oh no, I made them simultaneously.
Yeah, because you.
Because
I got a call going, Dom, can you come and flip the pancakes? And by the time I got through, you went, no, I've got it. No, I don't got it. And I went, and you go, no, I've got it. So I've got it. So I stepped back again.
Yeah, so stirring boiling sugar with my right hand and flipping pancakes with the left simultaneously.
Impressive, folks. Like, absolutely impressive. You should open your own diner.
Oh, fuck no. That would be a disaster.
With a gallery kitchen.
Would be a disaster. Could you imagine?
I mean, we'd probably make a killing on YouTube.
Maybe that's the next thing.
Yeah.
Maybe that's the next thing.
So that was fine. So those were on the go. And then you came through and asked me to send you the recipe for the Muhamra, sorry.
I mean, we're probably both saying it incorrectly, but it tastes delicious.
So the roast pepper and walnut dip.
Yeah.
That's how I always Google it.
Good shout.
Yeah. So I sent you the recipe and I was still in that, just give you your spacing. So I knew I'd had challenges making it. And I was just kind of going, I just didn't know where you were at. I thought, if I try and step in...
No, well, especially because, so you shared the recipe with me, and in that you said, I substituted the pomegranate molasses with honey and lemon. And I was like, oh yeah, that's right. That was how you did it. Yeah. And we'd had that conversation. And I was reading through the recipe, and then I checked in with you and I was like, you only used half, right? So there should be, and it was just one portion. And you're like, yep, just one portion. I'm like, how much did you toast the walnuts? And like, what did you put cumin in? But there's no cumin in the recipe list. So like, what did you, like, how much cayenne pepper did you put in? And like, why, huh?
Yeah. So, and I was mindful, and I was especially mindful of the thing with the blender and the breadcrumbs. But I was just like, I'd already asked you if you wanted help with the crepes, and
but there's
and this is like, I'd already asked you to help with the crepes, and you said no, and that was fine. You said no it wasn't a angry type no thing, and then and I was just kind of like, actually maybe you just need to be left. So that was.
No, I mean, that's a very fair.
Yeah,
that's very fair.
That's where I was kind of coming from. On that.
Yeah, no, that's very fair. Should I have been making fudge and pancakes or crepes simultaneously? I should not.
No, but if that's
I should not have. But it was just because I couldn't be bothered with the sugar, because as I was taking the ingredients out for the crepes,
that's right.
So much sugar.
Yeah.
And then I realized that the 2 kilo sugar that we had was no bueno.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
So that went straight out.
Yeah.
So actually, that solved half of the problem. But now we'd had the conversation about the fudge, and I was like, no, I want to make it. I want to know how it's made. So I had measured it all up, and then I was like, just do one thing at a time. And I was like, but there's only so little crib thingy left. It'll be fine. You can totally do this. And then I couldn't.
Yeah.
So fudge I never made before. Crepes I've made a gazillion times, and there's not a lot you can do. Like, once the dough is made, you can't be two people. So there is nothing that you could have helped with.
Absolutely, and it wasn't. And you know, I sometimes even, you know, when there is things that can help me, you just like to be doing your thing and that's it. And sometimes when I'm cooking, I like to just do my thing. Like, for instance, the first time I made the muhammara, I was just like, I knew that I was going to adjust what the recipe was because we didn't have some of the specific ingredients. And you're very sensitive to chili. You know, so I wasn't going to use chili flakes, and so I used cayenne and all these things. But I just kind of eyeballed it, or taste budded it, kind of as I was going. So yeah, I appreciate that when you were going to be, so how much lemon did you add and whatnot?
But
and
also
I genuinely, because I didn't.
Yeah, and I knew that. Like, every time I came in to ask you, I was like, he's not gonna fucking know. He's not gonna fucking know because he doesn't cook the way that I do.
No.
Right? I follow the recipe. The first time I make it, I follow the recipe.
Yeah.
And then I get experimental.
Yeah. Right?
Because I'll then start adding things, and you're just like, la-di-da-di-da-di-da, Swedish chef kind of thing, like a bit of that and a bit of that. But you're so process driven, and the recipe wasn't very.
But that's my escape.
yeah. But like, you're so process driven, and the recipe was literally just like, whack it all together in the blender and go. You know. And it, of course, the second you said it with like, oh yeah, the breadcrumbs, and it gets stuck in the thing, and I'm like, fuck, that's what it is. I should have blended the wet ingredients together first, so I had the wet base, and then I could have seen that the measurements were slightly off and added more. But I just followed the recipe, so a heads up being like, Elle, don't follow the recipe. Just do the wet ingredients first. It's going to make your life so much easier. That would have been...
So...
But... Totally,
So that was that. So then you went into your room, your bed, in your cocoon. You know, and... No, we put on some laundry, and then you went to... So the laundry finished, I hung the laundry out. I rehung our projector screen. And I was... Did
you find a solution for that? Or did you just hang it up normally?
I just put it back the way it was.
Okay.
Yeah. I was, again, like you, I wasn't in the mood for fighting.
No, you're like, I'm not dealing with you right now.
With trivial things today. So it went back up the same way as it was. It works. It does, you know.
I think we just need to get better at just pulling it up properly when we're done.
And not getting lazy.
Instead of just leaving it.
So I was kind of pottering, sitting outside, yakking to the neighbours, trying to communicate with a postie who didn't have too much English, who had a parcel, all he could say was 26. And we've got two 26s close by. And he couldn't see the name on it, and the house that he went to, who it was actually for, couldn't see the name on it, so rejected it. And then he came down and he showed it to me, and I saw the name on it, and I saw that it was their name. And then they were shouting down, going, "Did you find the name?" I went, "Yeah." And they went, "Well, yes, it's ours." But by this time, the postie's kind of like, "Are you guys all pulling a flanker here? And this is not really your parcel." So he was getting all kind of, "Should I give you this parcel? Should I not give you this parcel?" So that happened.
That sounds on par.
Yeah.
That sounds
so
very on par.
yeah.
To be fair, the exact same thing would have played out if it had been on the other side, except the other side would not have double checked in afterwards. No. They would just have been like, not my problem.
Yeah. So, yeah.
But then they would have moaned about it for 2 days that the parcel never arrived, because that's exactly what happened last time.
So I was just doing bits and pieces, just getting through the day, letting you have your rest and your space. It got, even when it kind of got to lunchtime, and I was kind of like, I'm sitting outside with your dog going, do I waken her?
But I was awake.
Yeah, but do I go and waken her and check to see if she wants some lunch and
this is where we differ.
Yes.
Right? Because when you have the days where you don't move, I make sure that you have food.
Yes.
And I'll knock and I'll provide. And if you don't want it, that's fine, but it's there.
Yeah.
If you're totally out, I would have sent you a text message, or I would have checked with you on text and been like, this is what's happening. It's going to arrive unless you say you don't want it. But you don't do that.
No.
Like, you have this thing, like, even if you're like, when we pipple, on Instagram, you won't send anything on night, despite my phone makes no noises unless you call me. And should I have eaten today?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
I should have, because I have had 2 crips.
So let's right now, because we're having this conversation, and if should that scenario arise again in the future, I will do that.
Yeah. Yeah. I need you to.
Yeah.
I need you to.
I will do that.
As a minimum.
Yeah.
Send me a text message if you feel like you're invading on my privacy by knocking on the door. Send me a text message.
No, if you're
but send me a text message.
Yeah.
If you feel uncomfortable with that, send me a text message. Because if I'm awake, I will check my phone.
Yeah.
But if you knock on the door and you're just like, Elle, I'm making lunch, do you want some? And I'm totally fucking passed out.
Yeah.
Then you snooze, you lose type thing, right? But then if I'm passed out and you've made food, send me a text message going, hey, checked, you were asleep. If there's food in the kitchen if you want any. Yeah. Because then removing that hassle of, fuck, I'm hungry and I need to get up and I need to go make food and I can't be dealing with that and it's too much and then I need to make a decision about what food I need to have. Yeah. And that's just too much and I can't fucking do it.
Yeah. So
right. And that's because that's how I am.
Yeah.
So in October, that was why I grabbed everything in my kitchen. I pre-planned 6 meals in advance, so we didn't have to make that decision. Yeah. So there was nothing on you to make any decisions on that other than, well, we're eating now.
Yeah. And I will do that for you in future. I will do that for you in future. And it's like, and I know that you know that I won't have just forgotten about you, but it's just the fact that I just need to go, okay.
It's also, as we've realized over the last couple of weeks, where I have tried, where I have tried to match my eating with yours.
Yeah.
And that has been really bad for me.
Yeah.
That has been really, really bad for me. Physically, we're very different. But also the way that our bodies react to the situations that we're both in. You going into deep hyperfocus almost every day. And the world just disappears. As you messaged me last week, it was Wednesday when I was in the office, you were like, some bastard had just stolen 5 hours. And I was like, oh shit, you've been in hyperfocus for 5 hours, which means you probably didn't have breakfast and you've definitely not had lunch. Yeah. Have you had any liquids today type thing?
And I actually had breakfast.
Yeah.
But I hadn't had lunch.
But you hadn't had lunch. So because of the nature of where you're at and what you're doing right now, going in, finding jobs, writing applications, adapting your applications, adapting your cover letter, adapting your supporting statements or whatever they're needing, getting your CV, adapted for whatever role that it is you're applying for, all of that. And it takes a lot.
Mm-hmm.
It takes a lot of mental strain.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's that constant, but what's happening next? Where are we at? What's the future going to look like? And you being in the situation where you're needing things to happen and you need to make them happen, right? Totally get that.
Yeah.
Where I'm on the other boat, everything is just coming at me constantly, and I feel like I'm drowning.
Yeah. No.
I feel like I'm drowning. And it feels like the lifeboat is just circling, but too far away for me to get to it.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's why these conversations are...
Exactly. That's why
vital.
we're having this conversation.
Yeah.
So, what then happened today? And why I totally ambushed you, which was not my intention. I know I scared you. And it was not my intention to scare you. But as we talked about in last week's episode / last night, we've just changed into summertime.
Yes.
My dog is a flooster. She's very fluffy. She's half Malamute Husky, and she has the husky undercoat, which means that she needs brushed all the time, and the floor needs hoovered a lot during spring and the beginning of summer. And today has been such a lovely day.
Mm-hmm.
Such a lovely day, which I have totally missed out on because I've been laying in bed in a fetal position, in the same position without moving for an hour and a half with a blanket over my head. But it's been a really nice day. We went into summertime yesterday, which means that 5 o'clock today is 4 o'clock Saturday. Right?
Yep.
And it's getting hotter. I am a creature of habit. I am very dependent on my routine, and I don't deal well with my routine being changed out with my control.
Unexpectedly, yeah.
I don't deal well when decisions are being made for me and for my dog without me having been taken on counsel.
Yep.
And I
know that.
Yeah. And I am very aware that with the days getting hotter and me being like this, that means my dog is like that. So yeah, she's definitely a creature of habit and a creature of routine, and she is so obnoxiously intelligent that she knows exactly what time it is, and she adjusts to the winter summertime. But she's also a manipulative little bitch. So I don't doubt that 4 o'clock rolled around and she was like, "Hey, are you not aware what time it is?"
Yeah.
But that's the thing, it wasn't.
Yeah.
Right? It was still only 3 o'clock. And with it getting hotter and hotter, when we come to summertime, she cannot go out for a walk if it's hotter than 18 degrees. But she gets very hyperactive, and she gets even more obnoxious when it's hot because she lays outside. She's covered in dark, like black fur, and she lays outside on cement slabs in the sunshine, absolutely roasting herself like a pig on a spit. Like, she's the worst. And then she lies there and she pants, and I'm like, right, in. Like, get in. So already now, with the change in the clocks, like, she needs to get sort of like moved later, because otherwise summertime is going to be horrendous because she's going to be like, well, it's 4 o'clock. And I'm like, yeah, it might be 4 o'clock, but an hour ago was the hottest time of the day at 3 p.m. So like, no, this is not happening. Because we're going to cinema, we need to leave about like 7:30-ish, which is that in about 45 minutes?
A bit more than that. It's
oh, okay, perfect.
Yeah.
And I had an episode of Germany's Next Top Model that I needed to catch up on. And I knew that it was a nice day out, and, you know, it's all about taking the opportunities when they arrive. So I had planned it, and the episode was going to finish just after 5 o'clock. Speak of the devil. Hello. Yes. And just as I was getting ready to get out of bed and start moving my body and start creating that space for my head that we talked about yesterday, she came running in, all excited. And I was like, yep, here we go. Perfect timing. 6 minutes past 5. She's ready for her walk. And then I heard you coming walking down the corridor. Mm-hmm. That's a bit grandiose for what my hallway is, but down the hallway. And I've been wearing earphones to watch the episode. And the way that you were moving, I was like, no, you've been out walking. You've been out walking. And immediately, I was straight up in the red.
Yep.
Straight up in the red. I felt so undermined. Mm-hmm. So undermined. I felt disrespected. Yep. And I felt furiously angry. Yep. Furiously angry. So I took a couple of deep breaths and I was like, right, okay. Chances are you're overreacting here. Just like, take a breather. So I went back into my room. I took a breather. I came back out. And I feel like I asked in a calm way. No, for what I was feeling, I feel like I asked in a calm way, and I was like, have you been for a walk? And you're like, oh yeah, we're just back. It was probably a little bit too hot. And I was like, straight up in the red again. Mm-hmm. And I was like, right, okay. You just need to distance yourself from this, because if I had tried to have had this conversation with you at that time, that would have gone really badly. Because I would not, even though I know where you come from because I know you so well, but I was feeling so vulnerable and so raw and so low. And then I felt so undermined and disrespected. Despite knowing that that was never your intention, that was the feeling. And that made me so angry. But especially because of what's happening in the world right now, I'm constantly angry these days. And I was like, right, okay, well, you're going to move your body. So move your body. Yeah. Right. Just, again, as we talked about in the previous episode, like, move that energy through you. So I went for a run, which was way harder than it should have been. Yeah. Like, I took it back down to week 5 on the couch to 5K, and that was so hard. I was like, shit. Having an injury and not being able to move your body for like 3.5-4 weeks, that's tough. But I was also still on the faster playlist. I think I'm going to try and go from like week 5 and then up again, try and build up again, but on the faster playlist. Yeah. I'm going to give it a couple of runs and then we'll see. And if it's too much, I can switch back to the slower playlist. Sorry, that's a side quest slash side tangent. So I went for the run, and like that first run, it was 3 runs. So like a run that was repeated 3 times. And that first run, I could have screamed into the void.
Mm.
And I'm like, right, okay, you are just this angry because you're feeling really, really, really vulnerable and really disrespected, which are valid feelings.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
But you also know that that was not the intention with it. He wanted to do you a favor, and you need to take it for that. And just because he's walked the dog, that doesn't mean you can't move your body. You're moving your body, so just like move through it.
Yeah.
So I did that. Then the second run came round, and I was no longer angry, and I was just really sad.
Yeah.
I was really sad because I didn't feel like... No, actually, that's exactly what it was. It's not that I didn't feel listened to. I just felt so lonely.
Yeah.
And I think also because we'd had that conversation last night.
Yeah.
And that it was so raw. But like, I was immediately back to being that little girl who was never taken seriously, who was always overreacting, who was overly dramatic, and her feelings weren't valid, and you know, I just felt so lonely. And like, and that feeling of loneliness connected to you,
Yeah.
felt fucking shit.
Okay.
And then I got really upset again because I was like, no, that's not okay. That's not okay. But then again, that was never your intention. And I knew it wasn't your intention. And I knew that we needed to have this conversation.
Yep.
And then it was like, well, that's duh. That's why you're making the podcast. That was the whole reason behind the podcast. And I was like, okay, well, then that's what needs to happen. Like, when you come home, you need to have this conversation.
We need to do what we're doing now.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then run 3 came round, and I was working through the plan for the conversation and how I wanted to do it, but I was so angry that I couldn't start the conversation because I knew that I would go immediately into attack mode.
Yep.
Which is not fair. That's not a way to have the conversation. But on the other hand, I also knew that if I didn't start saying this, then I was doing the same thing to me that I felt had been done to me.
Mm-hmm.
That I was invalidating my feelings, that my experience is not worth talking about.
Yep.
And then just like suppress everything. And every time I say that, there are 2 things happening in my head simultaneously, which are very confusing. Under pressure, do 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 do. And there's one of my favorite films ever, Meg Ryan, French Kiss. She sat on an airplane. She's a French teacher. She's been dumped by her ex-fiance, very 90s. Yeah. And she sat next to this Frenchman, and she's moaning about how Frenchmen are inhygienic and they're smokers and they're, you know, all bottled up and they never talk about their feelings. And she's just like, fester, 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 rotten, rotten, rotten. Yeah. So those 2 things happen in my head simultaneously, which is just very confusing. And now you're as confused as I am. And I knew that if I then didn't voice it,
Mm-hmm.
that one or two things would happen, right? I would suppress it so much that I would just let it go.
Yeah.
But then the reaction when the next time something comes up would be 10 times bigger than it ever should be.
Yeah.
Or I would make myself even more sick.
Yeah.
And I'm like, none of those things are good.
Yeah.
None of those things are good. And that's why the podcast exists. It's because we need to make sure that we're having these conversations. And ever since we've started living together, I don't actually think we have conversations, really. Like, I don't think we're very good at just sitting and talking. But maybe it's because it was so intense before you moved down.
The dynamic, I think, not it has. Dynamic, but the way that we interact obviously has changed greatly. You know, so whereas phone call with a purpose of talking about a thing or whatever it be is not that, you know what I mean?
Yeah, but I think we very rarely have had, that's very hard for me to say. We have very rarely, had phone calls with a purpose. It's more sort of like, hi, am I disturbing you? Am I walking? And then the conversation just sort of flows.
Yeah.
And like over the past month, it's been, I found this job. I found this job. I've looked at this job. Or, I just got this email. I just got that email. Hey, can you just come and look at this? Is this email too outwardly aggressive? Is this one too passive? You know?
Yeah.
Hey, can you check this over? Am I just going blind? Where the hell is this thing? You know, can you come look at this for me? So instead of actually having conversations, and then like, you know, in the evenings, we actually don't watch that much.
No.
Quotation mark telly.
No.
We don't. It's definitely not every day that we put something on. But then, you know, we have dinner and then we go to bed. So we don't actually have conversation, or I don't feel like we have conversations.
We don't have the same levels of conversations that we were having before, and I haven't thought about it, and and you're right. You are right, and I have the distraction of looking for not a distraction. That's just what is kind of occupying my time and my mind a lot just now.
Yeah, which again absolutely makes sense.
Yeah,
absolutely makes sense.
But no, and again, this is why these conversations are important, because we realize these things, and then we can do something about it. You know, so. And just going back there, you know, to the situation with taking the dog for a walk, and again, I know that you know this, and it, you know, I know that when the clock changes, that I've got to be mindful of the temperature and these things, and I know that you phase in that change of time. She just came in and grabbed the carrot, and she's only quite happy.
But she was very flip-floppy about whether she was going to eat it in here or eat it outside.
My feet were kind of in the way.
Which, thank God, because she's such a noisy carrot eater.
The carrot spot, yeah. So I was aware of all these things, and this has ultimately come down is because that bit of communication just wasn't had.
Yes.
But so she absolutely was pestering me at 4 o'clock to go for a walk, and I'm absolutely going no, because you need to start working away from the 4 o'clock, because
especially because she's been doing that the last couple of days anyway.
Yeah.
So she's just being a cow.
Yeah, you know. So that was absolutely. You know, that wasn't me forgetting about that and not taking that into consideration. We didn't. It was 1:30 or very near 1:30 when we left here to go for the walk.
Upstairs dog just came down whilst she's eating carrots.
No.
He's not interested in them.
No.
But I'm not sure she's going to be okay with it. Well, we'll
Yeah,
hear.
we'll find out.
We'll
Yeah.
hear.
So absolutely. And yeah, I hadn't realised that you were awake.
But you also didn't check.
No. I did. I did check insofar as I sat here listening very intently going, is there any signs of movement? Can I hear your
But
tablet?
you didn't realise that I picked up my computer and my drink.
No.
I had a drink on the table and I had my computer here. You were in the kitchen. I went in and picked up my stuff.
Yeah. So
that's...
And it's the same as at lunchtime. It's just like, and I just have to go, actually, do you know what? Just go and give a chap on the door. Just go and give a chap on the door. If I chap, and the thing is, if I chap on the door and I got no response.
Yeah. Which, again, you might not have had because I had earphones in.
Yeah. So, and that's just, and we will, going forward, that will be change. That will change. So I absolutely was. And I was 100% mindful of the fact that today was a day where you might want to, like, once you got up, go for a run. Even to the point I'm kind of me going, well, maybe by the time you get up and you go for your run, it might be too late for going to the cinema and whatnot. And we don't, and I'm fine with that because you getting and going for that run is more important. All those thoughts had gone through my head. The problem is they'd just all gone through my head.
Yeah.
And I know this is what I do. I think things through. I run all the scenarios, and then I land on one, which is at that time I see the path of least resistance for everything, and I kind of go with it. Whereas what I need to do is just take the 7 seconds that it takes to get out of the chair, go over, chap on the door, and just see where you're at.
Yeah. And then again, if you don't get an answer, just send me a text message, because that's the thing. If you chapped on the door and I hadn't realised because I had my earphones in, and you texted just gone, hey Elle, your dog was being her royal self again and I've taken her out for a loop, I would have been forewarned. Right? And I would have been like, oh, fuck, that sucks. Right, okay, but actually, that's all right because then I can go, I can just go for a run. So it's just like that communication. But again, it was also the Molotov cocktail of, me feeling really vulnerable, feeling really low, and then feeling undermined.
And I don't ever want anything that I do to be the cause of you feeling like that. And this is for me the kind of little bit of frustration in all this is that, like, having now talked, going, if you chop on the door, I can avoid all this, and I was trying to be considerate. I was trying to give you your space, and so I will probably beat myself up a little bit more about this than you ever will.
Because the air is cleared.
Oh, absolutely.
Right? The air is cleared. Everything is good.
You did absolutely. When you came back in from your run, you scared the absolutely.
I did. I saw your eyes, and it was like, fuck, Elle.
Yeah.
Because I was still angry.
Yeah.
I was still angry, but I was like, it's fine. You can have the conversation. You're a coach. You can just give him space and you can explain.
Yeah.
And that'll give you time to, like, calm down. And you're like, fuck.
Yeah.
Is it a lot of things that I've done, or is it one thing? And I was like, no, it's one thing.
and you know what? As soon as you said it's one thing, I knew exactly what it was.
Yeah.
I knew
but
exactly
it's also,
what it was.
As I started talking, I saw it dawning on you. You're like, yeah, I knew that. Yeah. I knew that. And I was like, yeah, I know that you knew that. Yeah. I know you knew it because you would have run through every single one of these scenarios. But you ran through the scenarios for you, not for me.
No, I think that's unfair. I think I came out with the wrong solution for the right reasons.
That's okay.
You know.
Yeah. I agree with that.
And it's just that. It's like,
and it's again, but it's that really stupid thing, right? Where you're like, if you just send me that text message, I would never have reacted because I knew exactly where you came from. But I would have felt like I had been not part of the decision, but I would have been informed instead of taken on the back foot.
For me, this not wanting to chap on your door, not wanting to disturb you thing, I know where that comes from. That comes from my childhood. That comes from my upbringing, from my programming. I was one of 7. You didn't often get time in your own space to yourself or whatever. So if one of us was taking time out in the bedroom, because we shared rooms and whatnot, then you kind of respected that and you give them their space. It was their time, and you didn't disturb that.
Yeah, I know that, right? I know that, which is why I'm saying, if you just send me a text message,
and I will.
Right, if you just send me a text message, if you chapping on my door feels too much for you, I totally respect that. Because I have this really weird thing about people's bedrooms as well. Like, I have no problem sort of knocking on the door, but I feel very uncomfortable hanging out in people's bedrooms. Like, if someone is like, yeah, you can just come in, and I'm like, no, I don't think I can. Whereas I have no problem with people, you know, chapping on my door and coming in.
Your dog's not picked that up from you.
My dog, no, my dog has zero boundaries.
But no,
zero boundaries.
So and so when you came in and said like we need to have a talk and we're going to do it in the podcast, I was just like, whoa, what? Like, what's going on here? And we said at the start of this, you know, when we started recording, is like, actually, let's have the discussion, let's record it, and then if we decide that it's not the way that we want to put out the next episode of the podcast, whatever, then we can't. But either way, we were having the conversation, so we may as well record it. And which is and I'm cool with that. It was just that initial when you came in and went like, and I was just like, oh, bollocks.
Yeah, I mean, it was an ambush. It wasn't intended as an ambush.
No. And
it wasn't intended as an ambush, but it was. I totally see that, and I absolutely I apologize for that. It was an ambush, but but that was the only way that I could do it.
Yeah.
Because I needed to do it.
And I'm fine with that, El. And I'm fine with that. Because
It was exactly like when we had that conversation a couple of weeks ago, right? Where you had your plans change and you changed the schedule.
Yeah.
You just didn't inform me about it. So I had my schedule planned.
Yeah.
And then I asked you, like, what time would be good for you? Like, we're out walking now, we'll be back in an hour. So I'm thinking an hour and a half. And you're like, oh, yeah, no, that's not happening because I'm going out the house. And I was just like,
yeah.
Yeah. Okay, right. Well, I'm out for a run now. So I'm going to call you back later. And then I couldn't run. And I was so angry. And I called you back immediately. And I was like, this is not okay. No. I need more communication.
But do you think it's just like we knew that things were going to crop up. We knew that things were going to happen, and you know, and that was a huge driver for the podcast. Was that like to capture these things? That was
the whole purpose of doing it this way.
Of doing it this way, absolutely. Because we talked for a long time about doing a podcast. Even before we decided, before lives changed and scenarios changed and stuff like that, we've always kind of wanted to do a podcast.
We've had like 4 or 5 different podcasts planned.
Yeah, you know, this was just the one that kind of was like, right, let's do it. Let's get her done.
Yeah,
You know, thank you. You know. Thank you.
And thank you for giving me space today.
Yeah.
And for allowing me to just be in my space and doing the things that makes me feel grounded.
Yeah.
Thank you for allowing me to just like cocoon a bit this morning. That was exactly what I needed.
Yeah.
thank you for not making my dog into slippers when she was being a bism.
But actually, apart from that, she's been great all day.
But she is.
You know,
She
she
is.
is great. You know, but she has been great all day. You know, we had some zoomy time in the garden, and you know, and things, and it's like,
And thank you for taking her for a walk. I know she really enjoys that, and you know, again, going out for a walk with you is a very different thing than when she goes out for a walk with me. So thank you for that. Thank you for wanting to do something for me so that there was one task taken off my to-do list. From my point of view, it was the wrong task, but I appreciate the intention with it.
Yes, I know.
I appreciate the intention with it. And if I had been laid up in bed with fever, oh my God, that would have been the best thing in the entire world. But it was not a fever. No. It was a head thing. And thank you for having this conversation with me.
Oh, and vice
it was
versa.
important. It was important for me to have this conversation.
Yeah. We're going to get a hang after this one.
Yes, absolutely. Okay. But I think we should sign off first.
Yeah.
And I think this will probably a bit longer than we initially thought that it was going to be.
Yeah, it's probably longer than yesterday's one.
Oh, is it?
Or, sorry, last week's, because we'll be going out weekly. So it's, we'll sign off.
I think we
should. Need to start getting ready to rock and roll for the cinema. So thank you for tuning in to Shared Frequencies and the Space Between.
We hope that our conversation today has helped you find a little more clarity in your own space between, how you deal with things, and you know, whatever your situation might look like.
Yeah, and as we have just demonstrated, it's okay to be a work in progress. We're all just figuring it out, one frequency and frequency blip at a time.
Exactly. Now, we hope that you've enjoyed this episode, and if you have, don't forget to subscribe, always leave a review, and share it with someone who might also like to hear this.
So until next time, keep tuning in and finding the space that works for you.
Thank you so much.
Bye-bye.